The Paraphrase of Shem. The paraphrase about the unbegotten Spirit, what Deredikius revealed to me, Shem. In accordance with the will of the Majesty, my thought and my body snatched away from me my race, and carried me up to the summit of creation, close to the light that shone on the whole inhabited world. I saw no earthly likeness there, but only light, and my thought left my body of darkness as though in sleep. I heard a voice speaking to me, Shem, since you are from the pure power and you are the first being on earth, listen and understand what I am about to tell you concerning the great powers who existed in the beginning before I appeared. In the beginning there was light and darkness, and spirit between them. Your root, the unbegotten Spirit, fell into forgetfulness, and so I am revealing to you the precise nature of the powers. Light was thought full of hearing and word united in one form. Darkness was wind in the waters, and darkness had a mind wrapped in restless fire. Between them was spirit, a quiet, humble light. These are the three roots. These three each reigned alone, each by its own power, and they were hidden from one another. But the power of the light was great, and the light knew how deep darkness was, and what was wrong with darkness. His root was not pure. The problem with darkness was that he was ignorant, and he told himself that there was no one above him. As long as he was able to deal with his evil, he remained covered with water. Darkness stirred, and the spirit was frightened by the noise. He raised himself up as high as he could, and when he saw a huge expanse of dark water, he was disgusted. Meanwhile, the thought of the spirit looked down and saw his infinite light. The evil root did not notice this. By the will of the great light, the dark water separated, and darkness emerged, covered with vile ignorance. After darkness stirred, the light of the Spirit appeared to him, so that his mind might leave him, because he prided himself in his mind. When darkness saw the light of the Spirit, he was astonished, for he did not know that there was another power above him. And when he saw that his appearance was dark compared with the Spirit, he was overcome with grief. In his grief, he lifted up his mind as high as he could. Among the members of darkness, the mind of darkness was the eye of the bitterness of evil. Darkness made his mind take shape partly from members of the Spirit, thinking that by staring at his evil, he would be able to equal the Spirit. He could not do it. He wanted to do something impossible, and it did not happen. But in order that the mind of darkness, which is the eye of bitterness of evil, might not remain inactive, since he had been made in part like the Spirit, he arose and shone with a fiery light upon all of Hades, and in this way the purity of the faultless light was revealed. For the Spirit made use of every form of darkness, because he had appeared in his greatness. The exalted infinite light appeared, and he was exceedingly joyful. He wished to reveal himself to the Spirit, so the likeness of the exalted light appeared to the unbegotten Spirit. I appeared. I am the Son of incorruptible infinite light. I appeared in the likeness of the Spirit, for I am the ray of universal light and the appearance of light. This took place in order that the mind of darkness might not remain in Hades, for darkness had made himself like his mind among some of the members. I appeared in the likeness of the Spirit, O Shem, so that darkness might cast a shadow on himself alone. In accordance with the will of the Majesty, in order that darkness might lose every form of his power, mine drew the fire of chaos, which was covered by water, from the midst of darkness and water. Out of darkness the water became a mist, and from the mist the womb took shape. The fire of chaos, which is deceitfulness, came to the womb. When darkness saw the womb, he became defiled. And stirring up the water, darkness rubbed the womb. The mind of darkness was ejaculated down to the depths of nature, and it mingled with the power of the bitterness of darkness. The eye of power was torn from wickedness, so that she would not bring forth mind again, for this was the seed of nature from the dark root. When nature had conceived, mind, by means of the dark power, every form took shape in her. When darkness had produced the likeness of mind, it resembled the Spirit. Actually, nature tried to hold it in, but she could not do so, since she could not conceive any form from darkness. So she brought it forth in the cloud, and the cloud shone. Mind appeared in it like a frightful, harmful fire, and mind collided with the unbegotten Spirit, since it had a likeness from the Spirit. In order that nature might become free of raging fire, nature was quickly divided into 4 parts. These parts became clouds that varied in their appearance, and they were called hymen, placenta, power, and water. Hymen, placenta, and power were raging fires. They draw mind from the midst of darkness and water, since mind was in the midst of nature and dark power, in order that the harmful waters might not cling to it. So nature was divided, in accordance with my will, in order that mind might return to his power, which the dark root received from him, and which was mixed with him and had appeared in the womb. Thus, by the division of nature, the power of mind separated from the dark power, since the power had something from mind. Mind entered into the midst of his power, that is, into the middle of nature. The spirit of light, when mind weighed him down, was astonished. The power of his astonishment cast off this burden, and it turned towards the heat of the astonishment and put on the light of the Spirit. When nature had been set in motion by the power of the light of the Spirit, the burden returned. Thus, the astonishment of the light of the Spirit cast off the burden and stuck to the clouds of the hymen. All the clouds of darkness, who had separated from Hades, cried out because of the alien power. It was the Spirit of light who had come among them. By the will of the Majesty, the Spirit gazed up at the infinite light, in order that his light might be pitied and his likeness might be brought up from Hades. When the Spirit looked out, I, the Son of Majesty, flowed out like a ray of bright light and a gust of the immortal Spirit. I blew from the cloud of hymen upon the astonishment of the unbegotten Spirit, and the cloud separated and shed light on the other clouds. They were separated so the Spirit might return. Because of this, mind took form. His repose was over. The hymen of nature was a cloud that cannot be grasped. It was a great fire. Likewise, the placenta of nature was the cloud of silence. It was a majestic fire. The power, which was mixed with the mind, also was a cloud of nature mingled with darkness, who had aroused nature to unclean behavior. And the dark water was a frightful cloud. The root of nature below was twisted, since it was burdensome and noxious. The root was blind before the bound light, which was imperceptible, since it had many appearances. I had pity on the light of the Spirit that mind had taken. I returned to my place in order to pray to the exalted infinite light, that the power of the light of the Spirit might increase on his place and become full, not with dark defilement, but with what was pure. I said, "You are the root of the light. Your hidden form has appeared, and it is exalted, infinite. May all the power of the Spirit become pure, and may it be filled with its light. The infinite light will not be able to join with the unbegotten Spirit, and the power of astonishment will not be able to mingle with nature." In accordance with the will of the Majesty, my prayer was accepted. The voice of the Word was heard, saying from the Majesty to the unbegotten Spirit, "Look, the power has attained its fullness. The one who was revealed by me appeared in the Spirit. I shall appear again. I am Dirdachius, the son of undefiled infinite light. The light of the infinite Spirit came down into feeble nature for a short time until all the defilement of nature was withdrawn. So that the darkness of nature might be put to shame, I put on my garment, the garment of the light of Majesty. That is what I am. I took on the appearance of the Spirit in order to consider all the light in the depths of darkness. In accordance with the will of the Majesty, that by means of the Word the Spirit might be filled with his light apart from the power of the infinite light. And in accordance with my own will, the Spirit arose through his own power. His greatness was granted to him, that he might be filled with all his light and emerge from the entire burden of darkness. For what was behind was a dark fire, blowing and pressing on the Spirit. The Spirit rejoiced because he had been protected from the frightful water. His light was not as bright as the Majesty, but whatever was granted him by the infinite light was given, so that in all his members he might appear in bright light. And when the Spirit arose from above the water, the dark image of the water became apparent. The Spirit paid homage to the exalted light. "Surely you alone are the infinite one, for you are above everything begotten, and you have protected me from the darkness. At your wish I arose from the dark power." in order that nothing may be hidden from you, Shem, the thought that the Spirit had begotten through his greatness came into being, since darkness was not able to restrain his evil. Once it appeared, the three roots became known as they were from the beginning. If darkness had been able to check his evil, mind might not have separated from him, and another power would not have appeared. But from the time it appeared, I, the Son of Majesty, has been seen, so that the light of the Spirit might not become deaf, and that nature might not reign over him, because he gazed at me. Then, by the will of the Majesty, my purity was revealed, in order that what comes from power might appear. You are the great power that came into being, and I am the perfect light above the spirit and darkness, the one who puts darkness to shame in the inner course of the risque ribbing. For it is through the division of nature that the greatness of the Spirit wishes to protect itself with honor up to the height of the thought of the Spirit. The Spirit was receiving rest in his power, for the image of light is inseparable from the unbegotten Spirit. The lawgivers did not give it a name from all the clouds of nature, nor is it possible to name it. For every form into which nature has divided its power of restless fire, this is the seed of matter. The fire that receives the power of darkness has enclosed in it the midst of the members of nature. By the will of the Majesty, in order that mind and all the light of the Spirit might be protected from every burden and labor of nature, a voice came from the Spirit to the cloud of Hymen. The light of astonishment began to praise with the voice granted to him. The great luminous Spirit was in the cloud of Hymen. He honored the infinite light and the universal likeness, and this is what I am. Son of Majesty, you who are called rising and setting, you are the infinite light given by the will of the Majesty to establish every light of the Spirit upon the place and to separate mind from darkness. For it was unsuitable for the light of the Spirit to remain in Hades. At your wish, the Spirit arose to gaze at your greatness. Shem, I have told you these things so that you might understand that my likeness, the Son of Majesty, is from infinite thought, since I am for the Majesty a universal likeness that does not lie, and I am over every truth and the principle of the Word. His appearance is in my beautiful garment of light, which is the voice of immeasurable thought. We are the unique light that came into being alone. This light appeared in another root, in order that the power of the Spirit might be raised from the feeble nature. By the will of the great light, I came from the exalted Spirit down to the cloud of the Hymen with my universal garment. Then the Word received me from the Spirit in the first cloud of the Hymen of nature, and I put on that Word, of which the Majesty and the unbegotten Spirit had made me worthy. The threefold unity of my garment appeared in the cloud, by the will of the Majesty, in a single form, and my likeness was covered with the light of my garment. The cloud was disturbed, unable to support my likeness. It shed the first power, which it had taken from the Spirit, and which had shone on him from the beginning, before I appeared in the word of the Spirit. The cloud could not support them both. Then the light that came from the cloud passed through the silence until it came into the middle. By the will of the Majesty, the light of the Spirit that is in the silence, that has been separated from the luminous Spirit, mingled with it. It had been separated by the cloud of silence. The cloud of the middle was disturbed. It was the light of silence that gave rest to the flame of fire. It pressed down the dark womb, in order to not reveal other seed. Out of darkness it held them back, in the middle of nature, to the position in the cloud. The seeds were troubled, since they did not know where they were, for they did not yet possess the universal knowledge of the Spirit. I prayed to the Majesty, toward the infinite light, that the troubled power of the Spirit might go to and fro, and the dark womb might become inactive, and that my likeness might appear in the cloud of Hymen, as I were wrapped in the light of the Spirit that had gone before me. Then, by the will of the Majesty and through the prayer, I was in the cloud, in order that through my garment, which was from the power of the Spirit, the fullness of the Word might bring power to the members of darkness. Because of them I appeared in this insignificant place. I am a helper to everyone who has been given a name. For when I appeared in the cloud, the light of the Spirit began to save itself from the frightful water, and from the clouds of fire that had been separated from dark nature. And I gave them eternal honor, that they might not again mingle with unclean sexuality. The light in the hymen was troubled by my power, and it passed through the very middle of me. It was filled with universal thought and the word of the light of the Spirit. It turned to its repose and took form in its root. It shone, since it was without deficiency. But the light that had come with it from the silence departed from the middle and returned to its place. Then the cloud shone, and from it came unquenchable fire. The part that had separated from astonishment had put on forgetfulness. It had been tricked by the fire of darkness. The trouble of its restlessness cast off the burden of the cloud. It was evil, for it was unclean. The fire mixed with water in order that the waters might become noxious. Nature, which had been driven back, immediately climbed out of the still waters, for her descent had been shameful. Nature conceived the power of fire, and the one became strong because of the light of the Spirit in nature. His likeness appeared in the water in the shape of a frightful beast that had many faces and was twisted below. A light descended into chaos, filled with mist and dust, in order to harm nature. The light of astonishment, which was in the middle, cast off the burden of darkness and came toward it. It rejoiced when the Spirit arose, for the Spirit looked down from the clouds towards the dark water at the light in the depths of nature. For this reason I appeared, that I might find occasion to go down to Tartaros, to the light of the Spirit that was weighed down, so that I might protect it from the evil of the burden. Thanks to the downward gaze of the Spirit at the dark region, the light came up once more, in order that the womb might again rise from the water. The womb rose by my will. Guilefully the eye opened, and the light that had appeared in the middle and had separated from astonishment rested. It shone upon the womb, and the womb saw those that she had not seen before. She rejoiced, jubilant in the light, in her wickedness, although what had appeared in the middle was not hers. When the light had shone on her, the womb thus saw those she had not seen before. The womb was brought back down to the water. She thought she had attained the power of light, but she did not know that her root had been made inactive through the likeness of the light, and that she was the one towards whom the light had run. The light that was in the middle, that was beginning and end, looked amazed. At once its thought grazed up to the exalted light, and it cried out and said, "Lord, have mercy on me, for my light and my effort have gone astray. If your goodness does not establish me, I really do not know where I am." The Majesty heard it and had mercy on it. I appeared from the cloud of the hymen in the silence without my holy garment. By my will I honored my garment of the three forms in the cloud of hymen. The light that is in the silence, that emanated from the exalting power, received me into itself, and I put it on. Its two parts appeared in single form. Its part had not appeared on account of the fire, and I had been unable to speak in the cloud of hymen, for its fire was frightful, flaring up without weakening. In order that my greatness and my word might appear, in the same way I likewise laid down my garment in the cloud of silence. I went into the middle and put on the light that was in it, that was lost in forgetfulness and separated from the spirit of astonishment, for it had cast the burden from him. At my wish, nothing mortal appeared to it, but only immortal realities that the Spirit granted to it. Then the light of the middle said in the thought of the light, I was in great rest, in order that the Spirit might give rest to my light in its root, and may bring it out of noxious nature. Then, by the will of the Majesty, I discarded my bright garment and put on another garment that it was of fire and without form, from the mind of power, which had been separated and prepared for me in accordance with my will in the middle. The middle covered it with dark power. In order to go and put it on, I descended into chaos, that I might rescue all from the light. For without dark power I could not oppose nature. Once I penetrated into nature, she could not withstand my power. I rested on her staring eye. It was a light that emanated from the Spirit. It had been prepared for me as a garment and reposed by the Spirit. Through me it opened its eyes down to Hades, and he granted nature his voice for a while. My garment of fire, in accordance with the will of the Majesty, went down to the strong one. To the unclean part of nature the dark power was covering. My garment rubbed nature with its material, and her unclean femaleness grew strong. The passionate womb came up and dried mind up, in the form of a fish with a spark of fire and the power of fire. But when nature expelled mind from herself, she was troubled and she wept. When she felt hurt and was in tears, she expelled from herself the power of the Spirit. She remained as quiet as I. I put on the light of the Spirit, and I rested with my garment at the side of the fish. In order that the deeds of nature might be condemned, since she is blind, many animal shapes come from her in accordance with the number of winds that blow. They all come into an existence in Hades, in search of the light of mind that gives shape, but they could not rise up against it. I rejoiced over their ignorance. They found me, the Son of Majesty, in front of the manifold womb. I clothed myself in the beast, and I made a great request of nature, that heaven and earth come into existence, in order that all the light might rise up. For the only way that the power of the Spirit could be liberated from bondage was for me to appear to her in the shape of a beast. So she agreed, as though I were her son. On account of my request, nature arose, since she had some of the power of the Spirit and the darkness and fire. She had taken off her forms. Once she had turned, she blew on the water. Heaven was created, and from the foam of heaven the earth came into existence. At my wish, the earth brought forth all kinds of food in accordance with the number of beasts. It produced dew from the winds for your sake, and for those who will be begotten a second time upon earth. The earth possessed the power of restless fire, and so it brought forth every seed. After heaven and earth had been created, my garment of fire arose in the midst of the cloud of nature. It shone upon the whole creation until nature dried up. Darkness, which was the earth's garment, was cast into the noxious waters, and the middle was cleansed of darkness. The womb grieved about what had come into existence. She saw among her parts water that looked like a mirror. When she saw this, she wondered how it had come to be. Thus she remained a widow, and as for darkness, he was astonished because he was no longer in her. Yet the forms still possessed power of fire and light. This power remained in nature until all the powers were taken away from her. For just as the light of the Spirit had been perfected in 3 clouds, so also it is necessary that the power in Hades be brought to perfection at the appointed time. Because of the kindness of the Majesty, I appeared to nature in water a second time. My face pleased her, and her face also was relaxed. I said to her, "May seed and power come from you on the earth." She obeyed the will of the Spirit, that she might become inactive. Her forms held each other and rubbed their tongues together, and they had sex and produced winds and demons with the power from fire, darkness, and the Spirit. A form that stayed alone cast off the beast from herself. She did not have intercourse, but rather she masturbated. She produced a wind processing power from fire, darkness, and the Spirit. In order that the demons also might become devoid of the power they possessed through defiled intercourse, a womb came into existence with the winds in a watery form. Then an unclean penis came into being with the demons in accordance with the example of darkness, and in the way he had rubbed the womb in the beginning. Yet, when the forms of nature had come together, they pulled away from one another and ejaculated the power. They were astonished about the deceit they had experienced. They grieved with eternal grief and covered themselves with their power. When I had put them to shame, I arose with my garment in the power, that is, with my garment that is higher than the beast, since it is bright, in order that I might leave nature desolate. At my wish, the mind that had appeared in dark nature, that was the eye of the heart of darkness, reigned over the winds and the demons. I gave him a likeness of fire, light, and hearing, and with a share of the guileless word. In this way he was given some of the greatness, so that he might find strength in his own power, yet without the power, without the light of the Spirit, and without the intercourse of darkness, in order that at the end of time, when nature will be destroyed, he may rest in the honored place, For he will be found faithful, having loathed the defilement of nature and darkness. The strong power of mind has come from mind and from the unbegotten Spirit. The winds, which are demons from water, fire, darkness, and light, had intercourse unto perdition. Through their intercourse, the winds received in their womb foam from the penis of the demons, and they conceived a power in their vulva through inhalation. The wombs of the winds huddled together in the times of birth came. The winds went down to the water, but it is through inhalation, in the midst of the sexuality that leads to pregnancy, that the power was conceived. Every form of conception took shape through inhalation. When the times of birth drew near, all the winds gathered out of the water near the earth, and they gave birth to all sorts of filthy things. At the place where the wind came by itself, it acted in a defiled manner. Barren women and sterile men came into existence from this, for as one is begotten, so one begets. For your sakes, the image of the Spirit appeared on the earth and in the water. For you are like the light, and you possess a share of the winds and the demons, and a thought from the light of the power of astonishment. It was not good for the womb that each one brought forth by the light from the womb upon the earth came into existence. Her groan and her pain occurred because of the image that had appeared in you from the Spirit. You are exalted in your hearts. It is a blessing, Shem, if a share is given to someone, and that person leaves the soul for the thought of the light. The soul is a burden of darkness, and those who know where the root of the soul comes from will be able to apprehend nature as well. For the soul is a work of uncleanness, and an object for scorn, for bright thought. And I am the one who revealed the return of all that is unbegotten. In order that the sin of nature might be filled, I saw to it that the womb, which had been disturbed, found blind wisdom pleasant, so that I might make her inactive. At my wish, sin and dark water, as well as darkness, plotted to wound every form of your heart, since by the will of the light of the Spirit, they surrounded you and bound you with faith. And the light sent a demon to cause the plan of darkness to fail, so that the plan of the wickedness of the womb might be proclaimed, a plan to bring about a flood and destroy your race, and thereby to seize the light and take it away from faith. But I hurried to proclaim by the mouth of the demon that a tower be built for the particle of light left in the demons and their race, which was in them, in order that the demon might be protected from restless chaos. The womb planned these things in accordance with my will, so that she might pour everything out. So a tower was constructed by the demons. Darkness was disturbed in his deficiency, and he relaxed the muscles of the womb. Then the demon who was going to enter the tower was protected, that the generations might continue and expand through him, for he possesses power from every form. Return from this moment on, O Shem, and rejoice greatly in your race and faith. For without body and necessity it is protected from every body of darkness, since it bears witness to the holy things of greatness, that which was revealed to them in their thought by my will. They will rest in the unbegotten Spirit without grief. As for you, Shem, you remained in a body outside the cloud of light, so that you might abide patiently with faith, and faith might come to you. The thought of faith will be taken and given to you in bright consciousness. I told you these things for the benefit of your race from the cloud of light. Likewise, I shall reveal to you all that I say until the end, so that you may reveal these things to all who will come to be upon the earth a second time. O Shem, the disturbance that occurred at my wish happened in order that nature might become empty. The wrath of darkness subsided. O Shem, darkness was silenced. The light that shone for creation no longer appears in it in accordance with my will. And after nature said that her wish had been fulfilled, every form was swallowed up in the bottom of the waters. In prideful ignorance, nature turned over her dark womb and expelled the power of fire that was in her from the beginning through the sexuality of darkness. The fire raised itself up and shone upon the whole creation instead of the righteous one. All the forms of the womb sent their powers like flames of fire up to heaven to help the light that was corrupted, but they had raised up itself. They were the members of the restless fire. She did not realize she had harmed herself alone. When she cast out the power that is powerful, she expelled it from her genitals. It was the demon, a deceiver, who aroused the womb toward every form. In her ignorance, as though she were doing a great work, nature granted the demons and the winds a star each. Without wind and star, nothing happens on earth. It is through every power that the earth is filled, since they are released from darkness and fire, from power and light. For in the place where their darkness and their fire mingled with each other, beasts were brought forth. It was in the place of darkness and fire, of the power of the mind and of the light, that human beings came into existence. Since the thought of the light, my eye, is from the Spirit, it does not exist in every person. For before the flood came about through the winds and the demons, evil came to people. In order that the power that was in the tower might still be brought forth and might rest on the earth, nature, which had been disturbed, wanted to harm the seed that would come into being on the earth after the flood. Demons were sent to them, as well as the deceit of the winds, the burden of the angels, the fear of the prophet, and verbal condemnation, that I may teach you, O Shem, from what blindness your race is protected. When I have revealed to you all that has been said, then the righteous one will shine upon creation with my garment. Night and day will separate from one another. I shall hurry down to creation to bring the light to that place faith possesses, and I shall appear to those who have acquired the thought of the light of the Spirit. Because of them my greatness appeared. When he will appear, O Shem, on the earth, in the place that will be called Sodom, safeguard the insight I shall give you. For those whose heart is pure will gather close to you because of the word you will reveal. When you appear in creation, dark nature will shake against you, as well as the winds and their demons, so that they might destroy insight. But you, proclaim quickly to the Sodomites your universal teaching, for they are your members. The demon in human form will depart from that place since, by my will, he is ignorant. He will guard this teaching. The Sodomites, however, in accordance with the will of the Majesty, will bear witness to the universal testimony. They will rest with the pure conscience in the place of their repose, which is the unbegotten Spirit. As these things happen, Sodom will be burned unjustly by perverse nature. Evil will not cease, so that your greatness may appear there. Then the demon will depart with faith, and he will appear in the four regions of creation. When faith appears in the last likeness, her appearance will be exposed. For the firstborn is the demon who appeared in the celestial framework of nature with many faces, in order that faith might be manifest in him. When he appears in creation, evil wrath will break out, and earthquakes, wars, famines, and blasphemies. Because of him the whole world will be disturbed. He will seek the power of faith and light, but he will not find it. At that time the demon will also appear on the river to baptize with an imperfect baptism, and to disturb the world with bondage of water. It is necessary for me, then, to appear among the members of the thought of faith, in order to reveal the great works of my power. I shall separate thought out of the demon who is my soldice, and I shall mix the light which has something from the Spirit with my invincible garment, as well as the one whom I shall reveal in the darkness for your sake and for the sake of your race, which will be protected from evil darkness. Know, O Shem, that without Ekalokeos, Moia, Strophiea, Chelkik, Chelkia, and Alios, no one will be able to pass by this wicked station. This is my memorial, because through it I have triumphed over the wicked station, and I have rescued the light of the Spirit from the frightful water. For when the appointed days set for the demon, the one who will baptize in error, draw near, I shall appear in the baptism of the demon to reveal with the mouth of faith a testimony for those who are hers. I testify to you, unquenchable spark, Osea, the elect of the light, the eye of heaven. To you, faith, the first and the last. To you, Sophia. And to you, Sophiia. And to you, Saphana. and to you, righteous spark, and to you, impure light, and to you, east and west, north and south, upper air and lower air, and to all the powers and authorities you are in creation, and to you, Maluchta, as well as Sak, who are from every work and every impure effort of nature. Then, through the demon I shall descend into the water. Whirlpools of water and flames of fire will rise up against me, and I shall put on the light of faith and the unquenchable fire and ascend from the water, so that through my help the power of the Spirit may get across, the power sown in creation by the winds and the demons and stars. Through them every defilement will be filled. Henceforth, O Shem, count on yourself alone to become better through the thought of the light. Do not let your thought get involved with the fire and with the dark body, which was an unclean work. What I teach you is right. This is the paraphrase, for you did not remember that it is from the firmament that your race has been protected. Ekalorchaos is the name of the great light, the place from which I have come, the word without equal. The likeness is my glorious garment. Derodikius is the name of his word, in the voice of the light. Strophaea is the blessed gaze, which is the spirit. Chalkich is my garment, who has come from astonishment. This is the one who is in the cloud of the hymen, which appeared as a cloud with 3 forms. Chalkea is my garment with 2 forms. This is the one who is in the cloud of silence. Chalki is my garment given to him from every region. It was given to him in a single form from the greatness, who is in the cloud of the middle. The star of the light that was mentioned is my invisible garment I wore in Hades. This is the mercy located above the thought, and the testimony of those who bear witness. This is the testimony that was mentioned, the first and the last, faith, the mind of the wind of darkness. Sophia and Sapphia and Saphana are in the clouds of those who have been separated from the restless fire. The righteous spark is the cloud of light, which has shone in your midst. In it my garment will go down to chaos. The defiled light exists as power. It appeared in the darkness and belongs to nature. The upper air as well as the lower air, the powers and the authorities, the demons and the stars, all possessed a particle of fire and light from the Spirit. Moluchta is a wind, and without it nothing is brought forth upon the earth. He resembles a serpent and a unicorn, and he has manifold wings that he unfolds. What is left is the womb that has been overthrown. You are blessed, Shem, for your race has been protected from the dark wind with many faces. They will bear witness to the universal testimony and the unclean sexuality of nature, and they will be lifted up through the memorial of light. O Shem, none of those who wear the body will be able to complete these things, but by remembering they will be able to grasp them, so that when their thought separates from the body, then these things may be revealed to them. They have been revealed to your race. O Shem, it is difficult for someone wearing a body to complete these things about which I have spoken to you. Only a few people will complete them, people who possess the particle of mind as well as the thought of light of the Spirit, and they will protect their thought from risque rubbing. Many in the generation of nature will seek the security of power, but they will not find it, nor will they be able to fulfill the will of faith. For they are the seed of universal darkness, and the winds and the demons that will hate those who have been found to put forth great effort. Bodily bondage is great indeed. For where the winds, the stars, and the demons sow seeds from the power of the Spirit, their repentance and testimony will appear among them, and mercy will lead them to the unbegotten Spirit. As for those who are repentant, they will find rest in the consummation of the age with faith in the place of the hymen. This is the faith that will fill the place left empty. As for those who have nothing from the luminous spirit of faith, they will be dissolved in darkness, where repentance has not come. I open the eternal gates closed from the beginning. To those who long for nobility of life and who are worthy of the repose, he revealed them. I granted perception to the perceptive. I disclosed to them all the concepts and teaching of the righteous. In no way did I become their enemy, but when I endured the wrath of the world, I was triumphant. Not one of them knew me. The gates of fire and endless smoke opened against me, and all the winds rose up against me. For a time, thunder and lightning will rise up against me, and they will bring their wrath upon me. Because of me, as far as flesh is concerned, they will rule over them tribe by tribe. Then many who wear flesh that leads them astray will descend into the harmful waters by means of the wind and the demons, and they are bound with the water. But water will provide an ineffective treatment. It will mislead and blind the world. And those who do the will of nature, their part will be 2 times in the day of the water and the forms of nature. Nothing will be granted to them when faith confounds them in order to greet the righteous one. O Shem, it is necessary that thought be called by the word, so that, in bondage, the power of the Spirit may be saved from the frightful water. It is indeed a blessing if it is granted to someone to understand what is exalted and to know the ultimate time in bondage. Water is an insignificant body, and people are not released, since they are bound in water, just as from the beginning the light of the Spirit was bound. O Shem, people are deceived from the many forms of demons, and they think that through baptism of unclean water this substance that is dark, feeble, ineffable, and disturbing will take away their sins. They do not know that coming from the water and going to the water are bondage, error, defilement, envy, murder, adultery, false witness, heresies, robberies, lusts, babbling, wrath, bitterness. For this reason, an abundance of water burdens their thoughts. I proclaim to those who have a mind that they must abandon defiled baptism, and those who possess thought from the light of the Spirit will not get involved with sexual rubbing. Their heart will not vacillate, nor will they be cursed, nor will they show honor to the water. Where the curse is, there is deficiency, and where honor is, there is blindness. When they mix with the evil ones, they become empty in dark water. For where water has been invoked, there is nature with the ritual formula, a lie and injury. Only in the unbegotten Spirit, where the exalted light has rested, has water not been invoked, nor can it be invoked. This is my revelation. When I have completed the days assigned to me upon the earth, I shall cast from me, and my incomparable garment will shine on me, as well as all my other garments that I put on in all the clouds, and that were from the astonishment of the Spirit. The air will divide my garment. My garment will shine and divide in all the clouds to the root of the light. Mind is repose with my garment. My other garments are on the left and the right, and they will shine behind me so that the image of the light may appear. The garments I put on in the 3 clouds will, in the last day, rest in their root in the unbegotten Spirit, since they will have no more deficiency from the division of the clouds. This is why I have appeared without deficiency, because the clouds are not of uniform character, and in order that the wickedness of nature might be brought to completion. For at that time nature wished to seize me. She will nail Soldas, who is a dark flame, who will stand on the height of error, that he might seize me. She took care of her faith, being vain. At that time the light was about to separate from darkness, and a voice was about to be heard in creation, saying, "Blessed is the eye that has seen you, and the mind that has supported your greatness by my will." And it will be said from above, "Blessed is Reboel among all generations of people, for you alone have seen and will listen." They will behead the woman who has the perception you reveal upon the earth. In accordance with my will, the woman will bear witness and will rest from every vain effort of nature and chaos. For the woman they will behead at that time is the arrangement of the power of the demon, who will baptize the seed of darkness with harshness in order to mix it with uncleanness. He engendered a woman, and she was named Reboel. Look, O Shem, all the things I have told you have been fulfilled, and the things you lack in accordance with my will be revealed to you at that place upon the earth where you may reveal them as they are. Do not let your thought get involved with the body, for I have told you these things with the voice of fire. I entered through the midst of the clouds, and I spoke in the language of each one. This is my language that I have spoken to you, and that will be received from you. You will speak with the voice of the world upon the earth, and it will appear to you with this face and this voice. This is all that I have said to you. From now on, proceed with the faith that shone in the depths of creation. I, Shem, awoke as from a deep sleep. I was astonished when I received the power of light and all his thought. I went with faith, which shone with me. The righteous one followed us with my invincible garment, and all that he told me would happen upon the earth did happen. Nature was handed over to faith, so that faith might overturn her and establish her in darkness. Nature developed a circular motion by turning night and day without rest with the souls. This brought her deeds to completion. Then I rejoiced in the thought of light. I departed from darkness and proceeded in faith where the forms of nature are, up to the top of the earth, to the things that are prepared. Your faith rules over the earth the entire day. For all day and all night, faith keeps nature turning so that she might receive the righteous one. Nature is burdened and troubled. None will be able to open the form of the womb except mind alone, who has entrusted with their configuration. The configuration of the two forms of nature, the one that is blind, is frightful. Those who have a free conscience will remove themselves from the babbling of nature and will bear witness to the universal testimony. They will strip off the burden of darkness, they will put on the word of light, and they will not be kept back in an insignificant place. Moreover, what they possess from the power of mind they will give back to faith. They will be accepted without suffering. Finally, they will abandon the chaotic fire they possess in the middle of nature, and they will be received by my garments which are in the clouds. They guide their members, and they will rest in the spirit without suffering. Because of this, the appointed time of faith was manifested on the earth for a little while, until darkness is taken away from her and her testimony is revealed, the testimony revealed by me. Those who will be found from her root will strip off darkness and chaotic fire. They will put on the light of mind and will bear witness, for all that I have said will come to pass. After I cease to be on the earth, I withdraw above to my repose. A great harmful deceit will come upon the world, as many as evil, in accordance with the number of forms of nature. Evil days will come, and when the time of nature approaches destruction, darkness will come upon the earth. The number of the elect will be limited. A demon will rise up from the power with a likeness of fire. He will tear the sky and rest in the depth of the east. The whole creation will be shaken, and the deceived world will be disturbed. Many places will be flooded because of the envy of the winds and the demons, whose names are meaningless, Phobia and Calogra. They govern the world with their teaching, and lead many hearts astray because of their disorder and defilement. Many places will be sprinkled with blood, and there will be 5 generations that eat their own children. But the regions of the south will accept the word of light. Those outside the error of the world. Text missing. From the east, then, a demon will come from the belly of the serpent. He was hidden in a deserted place, and he will perform many wonders. Many will loathe him. Wind will come forth from his mouth, with a female likeness, and her name will be called Abelphi. He will reign over the world from the east to the west. Then nature will have one last moment. The stars will disappear from the sky, and the mouth of error will be opened, so that evil darkness may become ineffective and silent. In the last day, the forms of nature will be eliminated with the winds and all their demons. They will turn into a dark lump, just as they were in the beginning. And the sweet waters, burdened by the demons, will dry up. For where the power of the Spirit has gone, there are my sweet waters. No further works of nature will appear. They will mingle with the waters of darkness, which are limitless, and all her forms will recede from the middle. I, Shem, have completed these things. My heart began to separate from the body of darkness, and my time was up. Then my heart put on the immortal memorial, and I said, I agree with your memorial that you have revealed to me, Elerchaos, and you, Amoias, and you, Sidurcus, and your guilelessness, and then Strophiaos, and you, Chalkik, and you, Chalkia, as well as Chalki and Eleos, you are the immortal memorial. I testify to you, unquenchable spark, who is in an eye of heaven and a voice of light, and to you, Sophia, and to you, Sophia, and to you, Sophana, and to you, righteous spark, and to you, faith, the first and the last, and to you, upper air, and to you, lower air, and to you, all the powers and the authorities in creation, and to you, impure light, and to you also, east, and to you, west, and to you, south, and to you, north. You are the 4 cardinal points in the inhabited world, and to you also, Meluchta, and to you, Esach, you are the root of evil, and every work and defiled effort of nature. These are the things I completed while bearing witness. I am Shem. On the day when I was to come forth from the body, when my thought had completed its time in the body, I arose as if from a deep sleep. When I arose as though out of the burden of my body, I said, just as nature has grown old, so is it also today with humanity. Blessed are they who have known, as they have fallen asleep, in what power their thought has rested. When the Pleiades separated, I saw clouds which I shall pass through. The cloud of spirit is like pure beryl, the cloud of Hymen is like the shining emeralds, the cloud of silence is like the flourishing amaranths, and the cloud of the middle is like pure jacinth. When the righteous one appeared in nature, then nature, once in a state of excitement, felt hurt. She granted to Morphea to explore heaven. If the righteous one explores during 12 periods, it is in order that he may explore them during a single period, that his time may be completed quickly and nature may become ineffective. Blessed are they who guard themselves against the deposit of death, against the burdensome water of darkness. It is only for a few moments that they will be dominated, since they will hasten to come forth from the error of the world. As long as they are dominated, they will be kept back. They will be tormented in darkness until the time of consummation. When the consummation comes and nature is destroyed, their thoughts will separate from darkness. Nature has burdened them for a short time. They will be in the ineffable light of the unbegotten Spirit without a form. So also it is with the mind, as I have said from the start. From now on, O Shem, proceed in grace and remain in faith upon the earth. For all the powers of light and fire will be completed by me for your sake. Without you, they will not be revealed until you speak of them openly. When you leave the earth, they will be communicated to the worthy. And apart from this revelation, let them speak about you upon the earth, since they will inherit the land, free of care and in harmony.